Advait was a man of precision and profit, a business owner who took pride in the clockwork efficiency of his manufacturing empire in India. From his glass-walled office, he watched the morning sun glint off the steel structures of his facility. He believed in providing for his people, but he also believed in the optimization of every rupee spent. To him, business was a complex puzzle where every piece had its rightful place. However, one piece of the puzzle refused to fit. Every month, Advait reviewed the staggering costs of providing catered lunches for his staff. He saw the high figures for input tax credit, or ITC, that he was unable to claim under the goods and services tax system. "It is a cost of doing business," he muttered, yet the law treats it as a blocked credit. The inability to offset the tax on these meals felt like a leak in an otherwise perfect ship. He summoned his lead tax consultant, Ishani, to find a solution. Ishani was known for her ability to navigate the labyrinthine corridors of the CGST Act with ease. They met in the boardroom, the table littered with digital files and legal precedents. Advait laid out his grievance. The catering bills were high, and the tax paid on them was seemingly lost to Section 17(5). Ishani adjusted her glasses and pulled up the specific section of the tax code. She explained that generally, food and beverages are listed under the restricted category for ITC under Section 17(5)(b). "The law generally assumes these are personal consumption items, Advait," she said calmly. "Unless you are in the business of providing these services yourself, the credit is blocked. It is a hurdle many Indian businesses face." Advait walked the floor of his factory later that afternoon. He saw the hundreds of workers who relied on the meals he provided. His business was growing rapidly, and his workforce had recently surged past a new milestone. He cared for their well-being, but the tax burden of the canteen weighed heavily on his mind as he watched the bustling activity of the assembly line. The expansion of the factory was almost complete, a feat that required strict adherence to various Indian labor laws. Advait spent his evening reviewing the compliance documents for the new wing. He noted the increasing requirements for safety, sanitation, and worker welfare. As the scale of his operation changed, so did the statutory rules he had to live by. The next morning, Ishani arrived at his office with a renewed energy. She had been cross-referencing the CGST Act with the very labor laws Advait had been studying. "There is an exception, Advait," she announced, placing a folder on his desk. "A very specific, very important proviso regarding statutory obligations." Advait leaned in, his interest piqued by the prospect of a breakthrough. Ishani explained that while ITC on food is usually blocked, the proviso to Section 17(5)(b) permits it if providing those goods or services is obligatory for an employer under any law. Under Section 46 of the Factories Act, since your factory now employs more than 250 workers, you are legally mandated to provide a canteen, she said. This mandate unlocks the credit. Advait quickly checked his latest HR report. The numbers were clear. They had reached 265 employees last month. The statutory obligation was no longer a theoretical possibility. It was a reality of his expanded business. The canteen was no longer just a voluntary perk. It was a legal requirement under the Factories Act, making the ITC fully claimable. With Ishani's guidance, Advait successfully filed for the input tax credit on the canteen expenses. The leak in his ship was plugged, and the puzzle was finally complete. They stood together in the doorway of the newly renovated, state-of-the-art canteen. In the world of tax, Advait mused, the complexity is not just a barrier, it is a map. You just have to know how to read the provisos.